What's up, fungal associates? Welcome to Completely Arbortrary. It's the podcast about trees and other related topics. I am one of your hosts. My name is Alex Crowson. And of course, I'm here joined by Casey Clapp.
Hello, Alex.
Hi, Case.
How's everything going?
Oh, you know it's going.
Oh, is it then? Sure.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Welcome, everybody. Wow. We're so glad to be back. I feel so out of step, Case, because we've had so many little hiccups and missteps. Maybe not missteps, but just life stuff, you know, kind of getting in the way of work.
Yeah. No, it has been. It's been busy. We've been busy. We've been doing things.
We've been sick. We've been out of town. We've been this and that.
Man, yeah. I mean, I told everyone last time my finger, I broke it and then got a bunch of vaccines and I'm better. I'm fine.
I would say it was smashed to smithereens.
It was. Yeah, that's the right term. Yeah. How does everyone feel about seeing finger x-rays?
Oh, you want to post those on the Instagram?
Sure. Might as well. That's what gets the clicks, right?
Did the doctor put it up and say, I don't want to get all technical on you, but your finger is broke like a motherfucker?
He did. He said the exact thing. He was like, you were there, Alex.
Shout out to Maria Bamford. Casey, we got to talk about a tree today.
Yeah, we do. I'm excited about it. As always, you know that.
I saw the name of this tree and I thought, wow. Oh shit. Malcolm isn't in the middle. He's up in a tree.
Yeah.
Because today,
what?
We're talking about the Munz oak.
Oh my God! I never put that together, Alex. You mean the actor? What's his name?
Frankie Muniz.
Wow.
I mean, I know it's a different word entirely, but the moment I saw the word Munz, I thought of Frankie Muniz, which made me think of Malcolm in the Middle.
No way.
Naturally.
I mean, of course, it is natural. Everyone knows that. Never would have thought that. Never in a million years, and I'm still a little bit confused as to how we got here, but that's fine.
That's why I'm here, Case.
Yeah, really, thank you.
And this is Quercus X. Oh, I wanted to say munzii, but it's just munzii?
It's just munzii is how I pronounce it correct, yeah.
Okay.
Now, this is a really interesting tree. As you're aware, against your will or otherwise, we are in the middle of Tree Request Live.
That's right, Casey.
Brought to you by MTV.
Well, in case you weren't born in the 1920s, TRL was a show in the 90s on MTV called... what was the
Total Request Live?
Yes,
and it was by Carson Daly.
Carson
Daly was the host.
Basically, people called in, right, and requested songs or videos, and he would play them.
Honestly, I think they called in and requested it, but they would play whatever video they wanted.
Okay.
But then they would just dub in someone who requested a song conveniently, because I don't think it was like live where you could call in and like you could say something right then. But yeah, they would.
The whole conceit is full of shit.
Exactly. Honestly, you can't trust MTV is what we're all finding out here. They don't even play music anymore.
So we're doing TRL Trees
exactly
requested live because Casey, as you know, since before day one.
Since before time.
I'm going to say like -5 BC of this show, we have been receiving requests for trees that people want us to do an episode on.
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
And we've got a master list, and it's, I would say, maybe 3,000 trees long. and you thought, I was going to say we, but this is your child.
Okay, thank you.
Let's do some requested trees. Yes. Well, Casey, this one was requested by Kevin Chambers.
That's right.
Boy, I had a neighbor growing up named Kevin Chambers.
Maybe it's the same one. So thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, shout out to Kev and anybody else who has requested this tree.
Yes, not everyone, unfortunately, will get their tree requested. But we also got another email about a sycamore tree from one of our people.
Thank you for bringing this up.
It was Lauren. Lauren, you are seen, and yes, you did. Yeah. You did also suggest the sycamore tree by an essay from John Green. I listened to that entire essay.
All right.
And I thought to myself, nice. Yeah, this is really good.
Lauren, I appreciate you sending that. I didn't listen, but I still appreciate you sending it.
Yes. So, and Lauren made a good note that Lauren was like, wow, I requested this tree. I was waiting for you to say my name. And then we said someone else. And then Lauren was like, well, maybe other people obviously requested this tree. It's great. So there are multiple different sycamores that were requested by multiple different listeners.
Okay.
You're all seen. You're all heard. We've said 2 of you, though. Sorry.
God loves all his children. Well, Casey, let's get into this week's tree. And let's start by imagining that you and I, boy, you mentioned Joshua Tree, huh? Maybe we're down in Joshua Tree. You are doing mushrooms and I chicken out, even though I'm the one who brought it up.
Even though I'm the one who brought it up, I bought them, I sent them.
I did a bunch of research. I brought my scale.
And then I happened to sneeze and blow them all over everywhere.
Like a real party killjoy. And we come across, on our walk back to the van, we come across some Munz oak. Casey, let's ID this tree.
Oh, I love that you said that, Alex. We did not come across some Munz oak.
Oh, wow.
We came across the Munz oak.
Oh, my God.
We were clearly walking down a small valley in a kind of sandy-ish area because it's the Mojave Desert. There's just sand all over the place. And we came across a tree that was 9 meters tall with a nice big rounded symmetrical crown. It looks like an oak tree.
Cool.
It looks very much like what everyone thinks in their head an oak tree looks like.
I feel like that would look odd in the middle of a desert.
Exactly. It would look really odd, which is why it stood out, which is why it stands out to everyone. It's on the National Park Service list. Unfortunately, they don't have more than 3 paragraphs about it, which is just awful. Fine, good for them. They had enough for me to figure other things out, which we'll get to later.
Okay.
But the moral of the story is there is essentially one Munz oak in the park. There's a few others that people have found, and I don't know if they were planted or if they grew natively. But this is one oak that grows in one spot and looks completely different than all of the other oaks around it.
Interesting.
The other oaks are all these little small shrubby things.
Okay, and this one's a big-ass oak.
This big-ass tree. So it is this one, and so we only have this one, so we can say, yeah, it grows about 30 feet tall, and it has about a 30-inch diameter stem. And that was measured, the number that I have, about 2.5 feet, 2 feet off the ground.
That's not too terribly bad.
It's not too terribly bad. I guess it kind of the standard height, which is 4.5 feet, you could expect it to be maybe 28 inches, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, just to be precise.
Thanks for clarifying.
You're welcome, Alex. But it's got this beautiful bark.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I hear you laughing over there, Alex.
What?
Are you upset with how I described things?
No, I just thought it was really odd.
Now, if you go to our show notes, you can go click on the very first thing. Of course, you'll have to go past our Planet Wild membership link, which you should click on. You get free first month. Anyway, just gonna throw that in there. I really, really like our sponsor this month.
Likewise,
truly.
Case. Yeah.
So,
For once.
Anyway, so go over and click on that first thing. It's called Select Tree, and that's put out by Cal Poly. And they essentially say, where are you and what's the best tree for you in California to plant? And they have a bunch of the natives and everything, and they have some really good photos, the best photos I've seen of this tree. And let me be clear, all of the photos you see of this species, this hybrid, are all of this one tree.
Wow.
It's really weird. It's very interesting.
Okay.
So,
but Casey, is this the only specimen of this tree that exists?
No, there are others that exist
Okay.
because some people have planted others and taken cuttings and grown it from acorns and things like that.
Okay.
So I believe there are others that are out there, but for the most part, this is the OG.
It's just known and accessible and
Yeah.
okay.
And I think, like you said, you walk around and you just see Joshua tree, cactus, Joshua tree, giant oak tree.
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense. It really stands out like a sore thumb.
Cool.
So, but its bark is just stupendously gorgeous. It's thick and it's kind of a gray-brown color, and it looks like it's just built with 1,000 strips of paper mache that are all kind of actively fraying at the sides and kind of popping their way off, so they look like some amount of shaggy and tough all at the same time.
Yeah.
Kind of like a bur oak, I think, is what I imagine. A bur oak
Interesting.
mixed with a eastern white oak, Quercus alba.
Well, I don't know, what you mean by that really, but I will say I think it just looks like a nice gray shaggy bark, almost like a gray cypress bark or something.
Yeah, it totally is. It's on that level.
I love it.
It's just really beautiful. It's very I don't know, the texture is handsome. That's all I have to say about
hell
that.
yeah.
So you keep on looking down, you look a little bit closer, and you'll notice that it is essentially hairy all over the place.
Hairy?
Hairy, yes. The twigs, they got tomentose. The buds got little hairs on them. The leaves, little hairs on them. They're just kind of like covered in hairs. Now, this is a big thing in desert plants. They have a lot of tomentose, or very thick leaves with a lot of hairs on it.
Tomentose.
Yes, tomentose essentially means a lot of dense, short hairs.
Okay, is this different from pubescence?
It is. Pubescence would be like your facial hair. You know, it's not super dense. It's not super, you know, like comb-like. Like it's like, okay, yeah, there's hair, but there's, you know, whatever. Then there's tomentose, which is like velvet.
Oh, so it's almost like the difference between hair and fur.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. As soon as I said hair, I was like, Casey, where are you going with this? And I just panicked and stopped. Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah.
Okay, so tomentose is more tightly, almost like a peach fuzz.
Yes, precisely. Okay. Yeah, cool. That's exactly how I describe it.
Great.
Yes, and like I was noting, this is a big thing for desert plants because it essentially creates a tiny little microclimate that help keep sun from just beating straight down onto the leaves. It kind of gets scattered through the hairs. And it also keeps a tiny microclimate around the leaf so it stays a little bit cooler or a little bit hotter depending on its situation.
It really is like fur.
It truly is. It does like a really good job. Yeah.
Does it also like keep water in?
It does, yeah. It pulls a little bit of water in and it kind of catches it as it goes out. So like dew will land on it.
Tomentose. I've heard you say that word before and I never.
Nice. Well, there you go. Yeah. There's a lot any plant that ends with the specific epithet tomentosum or something like that. It usually is going to be just covered in hairs.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. The Tilia tomentosa. That's right. A great example.
The tulip something. Nope, that linden.
Yeah, it's a linden. I was going to be like, yes, the tulip.
Your eye.
Linden. Good job, Alex.
Your eyes went wide. Like I was.
He's about to go off the tracks.
Like you were showing me off to somebody and I wasn't performing correctly.
Yeah, I'm like, Alex, say the right thing.
Play the song we taught you.
Okay, so the leaves, they are kind of obovate. And again, go to that Cal Poly Select tree and you can kind of check it out. So they look like oak leaves. But the funny thing about them is that they kind of start very small at the base and just get wide and stay wide near the top.
Yeah.
So that technically, if you drew a big kind of circle around them, around like the outline, they would be obovate.
They are beautiful leaves.
They are. They're just
I love these.
They're quintessential beautiful oak leaves.
To me, they look like they have something special. I don't know. They don't look a lot. To me, they don't look a lot like most other oak leaves.
They don't. And Alex, I think what you might be picking up on is that they're like they're that weird kind of oak that most people in the far north, where there are deciduous oaks, just aren't very familiar with. Where a lot of the oaks down in California and Mexico and the Southwest through kind of Texas and
the evergreen oaks.
Exactly. Okay. Like they're evergreen and they are thicker leaves. They're tougher. They are different colors. They're usually smaller. They have hairs. They have all this bloom on them. So they just have this strange, very kind of tough, deserty looking appeal to them.
Sure.
But these also have lobes like what you expect for a normal kind of northern species of oak.
Yeah.
So it's almost like they have, well, it's a hybrid. So actually, it's kind of makes sense. They kind of have a hybrid of these two kind of mentalities, right?
Yeah, okay. I see that.
Yeah. So they're about 2.5 inches long. So they're not like super big. They have between 2 or several different lobes, and each one has these tiny little sharp teeth on them, but they're not sharp in like a holly kind of way, but they're just very pointed.
It's like a red oak.
Yes, exactly. But a little bit stronger than a red oak, but not quite as strong as a holly oak.
Got it.
Okay, we're on the same page.
There's a lot of comparison this episode.
There really is. Honestly, when it's a hybrid, that's what you get, right?
This has the stature of a northern white oak with the scent of a southern live oak with the
umami.
The je ne sais quoi.
I can't even tell you.
The umami. You really are a sommelier of trees.
Thank you, Alex.
Let's find a good pun. I'll find a pun
later. You
later.
Think about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the last bit, of course, is the acorn. Every oak.
Somalale.
Somalale.
And a lay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. That's a good one. I think we could do better,
Wow.
but I think that's a good one.
Okay.
So the acorn is about 1 inch long, about half an inch wide. So it's kind of a very long acorn compared to what you'd expect from others.
Sure.
Usually they're a little bit more rounded or oval shaped, but this one is just long and pointy.
I love these long acorns.
You do? You like them?
I love them.
Aren't they goofy
They're
though?
so interesting.
Okay, as long as you like them, that's all I'm really concerned with.
Yes, they are goofy, but that's what I like about them.
All right, that's very fair. That's very fair. So it is, and they mature dark brown. They're kind of a light yellowish green before they are mature and they fall off the tree, and they have a tip that is canescent, which is spelled canescen, and that means that there's kind of these very small, shiny, kind of white hairs at the very tip of the acorn that make it look almost like it's bloomy, but they're technically little teeny tiny little hairs.
Okay.
So just kind of makes them look white at the tip.
Why?
I don't know.
Okay.
I've noticed this on beech nuts and on chestnuts and a couple of other things in this family. So I think it just is a remnant of how these trees grow and all the things that come with all of those other things in that one family, the Fagaceae, the beech family, which is, the oak family too.
I know it's quite different, but it sort of reminds me of corn. Like an ear of corn will have has that tuft of hair at the top.
Oh yeah, okay,
which is also running down the entire length of the ear.
Yes, but it for all looks, and intenses.
And, sure.
Yeah, whatever, Casey.
For all intents and all purposes.
For all intents, all purposes, and just
looks.
how it looks, whatever.
But and also an ear of corn is long, like this acorn.
There you go. Okay,
and acorn.
Oh my God.
Oh my! Holy shit! Are we uncovering something?
We
here?
are uncovering something.
What the fuck is going on?
Turns out acorns are just corns.
Wow. I mean, you got to admit, this is how conspiracy theorists actually think, Casey.
Yeah.
They find a coincidence and they're like, oh my God.
Yeah, which is, actually, I think in this case, the conspiracy theorist might be right. Here's my quick, I just thought of, and I'm pretty positive would probably be somewhere near right.
Whoa.
I could be wrong, though,
Hit
as
me.
I noted. So corn, initially, in like the old English way, just means a grain of some kind.
Right.
So rice would be a corn. A small piece of grain is just a corn.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we actually found, Europeans came over, they found this grain that the native peoples were growing that they just called corn. That's just a random corn. And then that generic term got put to a very particular fruit. And now that's what we call a piece of corn is corn. Everything else has its own name.
Yep. Like wheat is called wheat now.
Exactly. So there's no longer a corn of wheat.
But wheat would have been called corn.
Exactly. So I think in this case that acorn probably also comes from that, Like I bet you that they
Absolutely.
They come together. I don't know though.
Absolutely. I love this theory, Case.
All right.
I think it's great. Mm-hmm. All right, Case. Well, that's a good looking tree,
I
huh?
know. Now, so Alex, we did know that this is a hybrid, right? I want to talk a little bit about the parents.
Well, I was going to ask, I see that X. I'm like, somebody got a little fun.
Somebody got a little fun.
Little interspecies copulation happened here.
That's exactly right.
So who's mommy and who's daddy?
All right. So mommy is very likely, well, actually, I should start with daddy. Daddy is
Typical.
the scrub oak.
The scrub oak.
The scrub live oak, I think is what they call it. A lot of people would refer to a scrub oak or anything like that as a small, shrubby, pokey, sticky species of oak.
What does the word scrub mean?
It means it's not a tree, but it's like a species that generally people think are trees.
Tree adjacent.
Yeah, and it also is, it's kind of a term for scrublands, which are like these dry, kind of rocky, arid places that tend to have, plants that can grow in only those conditions, or rather they're the only plants that can survive in those conditions. All the others need a little bit more cushy spots to live. And so these kinds of oaks will grow in these kinds of places, and they just kind of are really tough, and they don't get very big, and they will scratch you if you go by them. Like they're trees and shrubs that are they're on their own, and they ask nothing from no one.
Okay.
And they'll just live. They're not stately. They're not beautiful. It's kind of like, man, it's just a scrub oak.
Well, I asked what does scrub mean really quickly. I just want to interject here. I am playing the new Zelda game, Echoes
There's
of Wisdom.
Another Zelda?
Sure is, pal. There is a little race of people in this game called Scrubs, and they're little acorn people. And their hair are differently shaped leaves.
That's amazing. That's exactly this. Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah, it's like the Children of the Forest or something.
Yes,
in,
yes.
Game
You
of
just
Thrones.
put together a little something for me.
Nice. Okay, well, this is this particular species is Quercus turbinella.
Turbinella.
Yes, which means shaped like a top. Which means you could like spin it like a top of you spin your little toys, right?
Yeah.
That's what it means, turbinella.
Okay.
This is where things kind of get really interesting, Alex. The very likely to be, and we'll get into why this is, the maternal side is very likely the valley oak.
Valley oak.
This is Quercus lobata.
Lobata.
Yes.
This is repeating everything. Oh, okay.
And this is a big tree.
Country boy and the city woman.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Now, the country boy and the city woman live 150 miles away,
Oh,
and they're
wow.
rooted to the ground.
Okay, how do we make this work?
That, Alex, is a very, very good question. So I do lots of research for these kinds of things, right, Alex? But this time, I actually had to go find a paper that was referenced from a postcard that Joshua Tree National Park had on their website as like a quick little aside from their museum. That is like this old obscure journal for the like Botany Society of Southern California or something. And I had to go find the old records, find this long, like go through this huge long paper, find the actual article that was like typed in 1968. And while I was reading through it, I swear it sounded like a 1960s mystery show.
Ooh.
Which means, Alex, I think we're about in for an episode of The X-Files.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to another episode of the X-Files. I'm Alex?
Today,
1 second. I gotta have my smokes.
Alex, why are you smoking so many cigarettes this episode?
I just started today. Oh, God.
Today, we have a mystery that's no closer to being solved than when it was first noticed by botanists sometime in the first half of the 20th century. Another cigarette.
Our mystery today concerns one oak tree. And I mean that almost as literally as I can. A single oak tree, representing a single hybrid of unknown origin.
Our
Ooh, a
story.
lightning crack.
Yeah, right.
Good, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Our story, well, as most stories of the 1950s, it seems, starts with two men. John M. Tucker wrote a fabulous article that will be read by obscure podcasters years from now.
And Philip A. Munz, who the tree is named after.
Munz was an American botanist, plant taxonomist, and educator who worked at the Rancho Santa Ana Botanic Garden. He took a keen interest in figuring out the identity of this stately oak tree that he found growing at what was called Live Oak Tank in the obscure desert area known then as Joshua Tree National Monument.
Oh, I feel sick. Tucker was an American botanist, herbarium director, and leading expert on oak taxonomy, who spent most of his time working at the University of California, Davis. Being a leader in oak taxonomy, he took it upon himself to sort out the different species and hybrids of oaks in his obscure part of the world, Southern California.
At the time, Disneyland was but a twinkle in the eye of a bustling, sprawling construction site. The Second World War had ended not long prior, and the free-spirited countercultural revolution of the 1960s was just beyond the horizon.
All the while, one lone oak tree grew out of the sands of the Mojave Desert, surrounded on all sides by yuccas and junipers, piñons, and scrub oaks. This tree stood out from the rest at 30 feet tall with deep lobes. Nothing like the scrub oaks around it.
In Joshua Tree, where the roads have no names and the points don't matter, there are a few different species of oaks. A few small shrubby ones, including the scrub live oak and the canyon live oak. Well, that's Quercus crassolepsis. But this one exception, the Munz oak, which grows well over 30 feet tall, it stood out like a sore thumb. So let's see if Agents Tucker and Munz can get to the bottom of it.
Tucker?
Munz, good to see you again. I've been meaning to talk to you, Munz. I think you're smoking too many cigarettes.
What? That's crazy.
You've been coughing a lot. I don't think you're sleeping as well.
I got a cold.
All right.
Oh,
Anyway, Munz, happy to see you. So I'm very happy that you took me over to see this tree. I heard you got a bunch of acorns from it.
Oh, yeah.
You started growing them. That's pretty cool. Any of them survive?
Absolutely not.
How weird. Anyway, I think I got a hunch about this tree. Me being Tucker, I've actually got quite a bit of experience identifying different hybrids and their parental origins.
Interesting.
Now, I think I got this one figured out. I think this is Quercus turbinella. You look around, you see all this scrub oak everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. It's all over the place. Mm-hmm. Now, what I did is I compared what the tree leaves look like, you know, and the acorns and the bark and the height. And I said, okay, now if the parent A is this scrub oak, then the parent B has to have all the other traits that would balance it out to get this middle tree that we're working with right now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm glad. Now I'm going to explain it just in case you don't. So this little scrub live oak here, it has these sharp points, but it doesn't have any lobes. So the other,
you mean on the leaves?
Precisely.
Okay.
So the other tree must have big long lobes.
If the offspring has long lobes.
Exactly, or at least longer lobes.
Because you can't get a long lobed tree from a short lobed bush.
You always knew how to put it best. You know that?
Oh yeah. One second, I gotta smoke a cigarette.
Munz, you gotta stop. You're scaring me.
So what happened next?
So I ended up looking
Wait
at
a minute,
all...
this isn't tobacco. I'm high as fuck.
No, this is really going downhill. All right, sit down. Just sit down.
Ooh, this is wacky backy.
I don't think it's actually technically illegal yet, so you might be fine. So this is so these trees here. I looked at all the other oak trees across this entire place, California. You know, I found that the only option, the only one that makes any sense, is the valley oak, Quercus lobata.
What?
It's got big lobes. It's in the same subgenre of oak, and there's been no accounts of different subgenres hybridizing with each other.
Now,
So it's got to be in that one subgenre.
this is surprising to me,
Why?
Agent Munz, because those two trees are so far away from each other.
It's exactly right. 150 miles apart at best.
It doesn't add up.
So here's the thing. I think there are three different possibilities as to how this could happen. There's the, it happened by chance possibility. There is the people.
Wait, how? What do you mean by chance?
Oh, well, Alec.
Don't you have subdivisions on these bullet points you can expand on?
All right. I'm getting the 5th degree from you here, Munz.
I know you, Tucker.
So here's the deal. You have a chance encounter from pollen from Quercus lobata in the San Joaquin Valley that floats 150 miles and lands on a receptive female flower of the scrub live oak.
Okay.
And thus you have pollination. Now, here's another thing. In order for this to happen naturally, you would have had to have, one, an overlap in the flowering times, Quercus lobata and Quercus turbinella, right at that one spot where this oak exists now, where our Munz oaks exist. Because I don't know if you know this, I wrote a paper and I decided to name it after you.
Oh.
Yeah, anyway.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's the least I could do for us working together like this for so long. Anyway, number 2, there had to be the occurrence during this exact flowering period of wind from the northwest or west sufficiently sustained to carry the pollen 150 miles or more between the two areas.
Now, is 150 miles a long way for pollen wind dispersal?
It's extremely long.
Okay, I thought so.
Yes. And there's more to it, though.
God.
That's already a really long ways for pollen to go.
Uh-huh.
Then the pollen has to be sufficiently resistant to solar radiation in order to be capable of germinating after such a long journey through the winds.
It's sunny down here in Southern California.
It's very sunny down here. Finally, there have to be the perfect atmospheric phenomena happening that would cause that pollen to drift downwards precisely at the point where it would find one of these oak trees, of which there are many, rather oak scrubs, they're all over the place, but that one single pollen grain had to find it perfectly onto a receptive flower of this Quercus turbinella in order to pollinate.
I see now that it's incredibly unlikely.
Incredibly unlikely, and I haven't even said that it is extremely unlikely that a different species would have all this happen and then hybridize, because if there's so much pollen from the other plants of the same species, they're way more likely to pollinate their own species. So essentially, if you are if filled with a room of your own species, then you're probably going to mate with your own species.
Tell me about it. Oh, sorry.
If there's one of another species, it's very unlikely that you're going to mate with that one other species.
Because of competition?
Competition, and also you're more receptive for whatever reason to your own species.
Okay.
So, at the end of the day, the odds are so astronomical that happened.
Yeah.
There's got to be something else here. So, here's my second idea. Climate change.
Go on.
Well, we know that the climate has changed. Also, I got a sneaking suspicion that there's oil companies that are not telling us something right now. But anyway, we'll get to that in the next 50, 100, 200 years.
I can't say that because I've invested my life savings in BP.
Oh, they're going places. Now, way back when,
There's this guy named Steve Jobs making some sort of newfangled computer system in his garage in San Bernardino Valley.
you should invest. You should definitely invest, Munz. Really good choice.
San Bernardino.
Also, did you just smoke another cigarette?
Yeah, I'm trying to quit. Leave me
My
alone.
God. So climate change could have happened, okay? You following me here?
I suppose, but I need more information.
All right, so imagine that at one point it was wet enough that the valley oak spread to the southeast and then ended up finding its way into Joshua Tree National Park. And you had now multiple different trees growing near each other, able to pollinate. You get your hybrids.
Sure. So the idea being that it used to be very easy for these things to
Precisely.
crossbreed.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. But now
To hybridize.
But now when we look at where they live, it's like so far apart. But if we just like scrub, no pun intended, scrub back on the ecological timeline, it would have been very possible.
Would have been very possible.
Okay.
Now, that is a good option. But here's the thing. Why is there just one?
That is weird.
There's just one. And there's no zone where we can see others that have survived in between.
Any fossils?
No, there's no fossils at all.
I guess maybe
Nothing's
they're
been
not
found.
old enough to be fossils.
Or you wouldn't be able to necessarily tell from a fossil that it is that exact species, right?
Okay, I
yeah.
see.
And yeah, it's probably also not that old.
Okay.
So if that happened, why is there only the one? Why is there not like a zone where we can see they used to interbreed often, and now they just don't?
I'm getting like Space Odyssey vibes. Like, did aliens plant this tree and then leave?
Alex, I'm so glad you said that.
Wow.
Because it is alien. I'm just kidding. It's not
Oh,
alien.
shit. Tucker, you scared me.
It's all right. I'm sorry. I know this is on everyone's mind right now. I know that just down the way over in Roswell, they had that incident. Anyway, we can't talk about that.
Did you hear that Orson Welles radio play, War of the Worlds?
I
Scared me half to death.
Did. Yeah. Well, hey, everything's okay.
I missed the first 15 seconds where they said it was a work of fiction.
So the other option, Alex, it doesn't.
Alex?
So the other option,
Who the
Munz.
fuck is Alex?
The other option here, Munz, is that it was just normal people. Not aliens, just normal people.
Okay.
So here's the idea. Now, there has been native peoples living in this area for thousands of years. There's been some living in the Mojave Desert area. There's been some living over in the Valley area. They certainly traded. They certainly had some amount of interaction.
Oh, wow.
So some people are wondering, it's another possibility that they took one oak tree or one acorn, they planted it, or they hybridized it somehow. Whether that is that someone took one small little oak seedling with them and planted it over in one area, and then that just died out, but not before it ended up hybridizing, and they got another tree from that.
Sure.
Then they moved it over there. Why is it planted exactly where it is? There's no evidence that this was a particular spot where they would have been growing more. Again, there's only one.
Yeah.
So it could be that somehow this was transferred through the native peoples doing different trades or somehow moving trees or food or something between the two of them.
Now, I think I'm not an expert, or am I? I'm not an expert, but I think that is the most that feels like the Occam's razor to me.
It does.
It's just trade.
But also, it seems astronomical because there's no other evidence of any other hybridizing still. This would be the only example. And the native peoples in this area are not known to hybridize oak trees, especially across 100 miles. They're also
Really?
not known to transfer acorns in a kind of trade way. They would usually get acorns from their own bands, not necessarily acorns from way over here to transfer way over here. Not to mention, if you just take an acorn of one tree and you plant it in the Mojave Desert and it grows up, it then has to hybridize with the oak trees around it. Then that is now the new hybrid, which is the tree we're talking about today. So just the passing of an acorn does not the hybrid make.
Right. It has to grow into a tree, which then hybridizes with another tree.
Precisely.
Which then creates the tree we're talking about.
Exactly.
Oh,
and
my
again,
God.
it only happened one single time as far as we can tell.
This is very curious. I mean, that's the evidence we have, right? Is that there's one.
There's just the one. I'm sure that there are
fucking
more.
weird.
There's probably others that have been cut down before people really took a close look at it. It could be that others had been there and they just died away because climate's changed. You know, this could be the only one that survived of a bunch of others.
Yeah.
But again, we don't have any evidence of that. There's no groves of these trees. There might be a few here, a few there, but maybe just one here, one there. But there's not like a big grove. There's really just one tree.
This is fascinating, but let's cut to the chase. What's the answer?
We don't know. Nobody knows.
Oh my God.
Munz. Nobody knows. You know?
Go ahead.
Nobody knows, Munz.
Okay.
Nobody's got any idea. We have theories. We can't prove any of them. There is not enough evidence, so I think that this mystery is going to remain unsolved.
Wow. Can I just say, what a letdown. There is one more thing I know. That someday, two tree podcasters will sit down and talk about this story and then take a break for ads and then give this tree a rating from 0 to 10 golden cones of honor. But they got to do so after the break. We'll be right back.
The hell is a podcast?
Welcome back to Completely Arbortrary. That was our discussion of the Munz oak.
Well, I just listened.
I feel like I blacked out and I just came to out of a surgery.
Why is there so much smoke in this room?
Oh my god, it smells terrible.
Yeah, your apartment. You're gonna get a letter.
What the hell? Well, Casey, let's get this tree a rating already, huh?
Very spooky.
This is how it works. We're gonna give our final thoughts on the Munz oak, and then give it a rating of 0 to 10 golden cones of honor. Casey, as our resident expert, will begin with you.
Well, Alex, I think this is a cool tree, man.
Cool, man.
I think that...
it is the late 60s.
It is, yeah. So we've passed from 68 to 69 now.
Oh, hell yeah.
Whoa, all right. So the Munz oak is, honestly, it's this tree where every time I see, I'm friends with a bunch of folks that are in the International Oak Society, and they just did this big...
of course you are.
Well, sorry. They just did this big tour down through California. And they specifically seek out weird hybrids and interesting varieties of kind of normal species. And so they are aware, just like you're saying, I'm sorry, just like Munz said, there are definitely people who are aware of this and they've looked into it and they're like, what? This is really weird. It's a very strange situation. So I find that extremely endearing. I have not found that there are more than a handful of this tree anywhere. And its existence in this particular space is a legitimate mystery.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Very cool.
And you can imagine it, but like, it doesn't, like Occam's razor, it takes these things away. Like, you could say, okay, there's the most likely thing. Most people agree that this is the result of a change of climate, and this is just this one relic that still exists. There are also botanists who think, yeah, this was definitely the hand of people who did this because they were really in tune with the land. But there are holes in all the arguments. Like, you can't quite say for sure. And I just love that mystery.
Yeah, that's cool.
I just love it when nature is like, I'm not telling.
I'll never tell.
Yeah, it's like, it reminds me of the koa, where like the odds of this one tree getting over there, like what was it? What's Sherlock Holmes? Was it Sherlock Holmes? I think, I don't know. It said whatever, like however unlikely, if all the evidence says that it's this, then it's got to be that.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is what I'm saying, or what I'm seeing here. Like this is just absolutely insane that this happened, and it's a really beautiful tree nonetheless. It is this non-scrubby, big, gorgeous oak growing in a place that should not support an oak like this. It's got these beautiful little leaves. Everything about it is kind of covered in hair, so you almost feel like you can just tussle its head and like pet it a little bit. I just think it's adorable, and as you know, I just love me a good bark.
Oh, yeah.
Just this rough barked, like tough looking tree. It just makes me want to give this a 9.1.
Wow.
I just am so about it. It's not the biggest tree in the world. I get it. It's kind of, growing in a weird spot. And honestly, Joshua trees, I'm sad that I missed this when I went down.
Yeah, you were there somewhat recently.
Yeah, like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
All right, 9.1.
I'm going to give it a 9.1 because I think it's pretty cool. And I just, in fact, I'm going to give it 9.2, the extra 2 or the extra 0.1. That's because the mystery is so compelling to me.
That's a good one.
So 9.2 for the old Munz oak.
Fabulous rating, Casey.
Alex, what is it that you think about the old Munz oak?
I think it's great, Case.
Okay.
You said something in your review. You were like, not to mention all of this wild stuff, but also it's a oak tree growing in the desert.
Yeah.
Among countless other yuccas. What do you say, yucca?
Yeah, I say exactly what you just said.
Yucca?
Yeah, it's an old yucca.
Goofy would say it's a yucca tree. That's fucking awful. I didn't even do the impression good.
Yeah, Alex, it was perfect.
Yuck.
That was perfect. I thought you choked for a second.
He is a Southern Californian. He lives at Disneyland. I think it's a groovy tree.
Oh God.
The tree itself, the tree can stand alone. I mean that in a couple different ways.
Agreed.
The tree can stand alone, and my rating for the tree would be high. I would give it like an 8.25.
8.25. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's great.
All right.
But on top of this, it's got this really interesting story.
It's got an interesting story.
And it's got this mystery. And I love when a tree has something more going on.
This
you
one's
know?
got it. It's got a secret. It's not telling us.
Like you can watch a movie and understand the plot that's happening. And the movie ends and you're like, that was a great story. But if that movie has a great story and it also kind of says something
Yeah. It's got
under
a
the surface, you
meaning
know,
on it, like Titanic.
themes and motif and allegory, you know, you start to think about it later and you're like, oh wow, when he said this line, that's like this thing. And the color of her dress was the same color as the thing, that which is kind of saying that, you know.
Yeah.
So I feel like this tree has a little something under the surface, and something. It's not just a tree with wood and leaves.
Yes.
It is a tree with a story.
Yeah. Nice. Well
For
put.
that reason, I'll be giving it a 9.25.
It earned an entire extra cone of honor from that?
It's true.
And it made it into the Arboretum of Honor.
You bet it did, pal.
Oh my God.
And because of that,
Wow.
I will now be playing the
This is great.
induction theme.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Munzoke. You deserve it. This is the induction theme to the Golden Arboretum of Honor. To the Munzoke, we honor you.
That's beautiful.
I chose to play it in A flat for some reason. It sucked. Casey, that was our review of the Munzoke. A great one, Case. Nice story.
It's Alex. We got a question?
Yeah, Casey. It's time for our completely arbitrary AMA. If you want to ask us a question on the pod, become a Treemium member today. arbitrarypod.supercast.com. It is the best way, I repeat, the best way to support this podcast that you love so very much. And today we've got a question from Ian. Casey, Ian says, I've been wondering about why trees have pretty stark differences in maturation rates. For example, willows produce seeds in 5-ish years, while hickories take 20 plus years to to produce nuts.
Whoa. All right.
A little Freudian slip. Why is there such a wide range? Is there any advantage to taking longer to produce seeds?
This is a great question. I love it.
I've got a follow-up question. Is there a correlation between the hardiness of a tree and the length of its maturation to seed producing? For instance, if willows only take 5 years, you could blow on a willow, it'll fall over and die.
Yeah.
Old hickory, now you can cut him down to make a baseball bat. He's gonna keep kicking.
I'm gonna keep on kicking.
So I guess my question is like, the longer it takes, the hardier it becomes.
Yes,
Is that
honestly,
true?
yeah. I think you are on the right way there, the right wavelength.
Like, how long does a tree of heaven take to produce seeds?
Not too long, but there's a couple different things that come involved. The first is genes. If you are growing, you essentially either wait till you get kind of a certain height, but it's usually like, time. Trees don't really pay attention to height. But you
said they don't pay attention to height?
They don't really, I don't think if you...
How could they?
Exactly, but they can pay attention to, age, and, they get to a certain point and their genes kind of go blink, and they become mature or sexually mature.
Okay.
It's just the same as almost any other animal or plant,
True. Yeah.
There is a certain amount of something that they're keeping track of, and then their genes make a switch and they kind of become fertile, is the best way to put it. So one of those is genes. Some trees take a really long time, and other trees take a shorter time. And that has a lot to do with the next part, which is your budget of energy.
Budget of energy.
Yes. And this is a great way. I read about this in Arborist News, a great kind of trade journal for arborists. And they talked about trees and their budget. And they were talking about it in how they use their energy. So if you have, a big pot of energy, you're going to put some of that towards different things. And this is, for you, just like a budget of money. Some goes to rent, some goes to gas, some goes to food, some goes to fun. And how you decide to move that around is usually based on, necessity. What do you need at that moment? What do you have to take care of first? And then everything else afterwards kind of comes later.
Or like strategy. Like if a
Exactly, yeah.
if a plant's a strategy is to grow really fast and really tall.
Exactly. Your job is to get up as fast as you can, reproduce as quickly as you can, because you're going to get outcompeted in no time.
So you may not put energy into like sturdiness or thickness.
That's exactly right. Most of the time, defense is what is kind of lacking.
Defense.
Yes,
Cool.
and that would be really strengthening your defense against decay organisms or getting big, thick bark and getting all these different things that help keep all the other malefactors in your life at bay.
Growing a thorn.
Exactly. Growing stuff that costs energy, because everything costs energy.
Yeah.
So one of the most energy intensive things is fruit. So hickory nut is big. Like it's the size of a golf ball or bigger.
Really?
Yeah, they're pretty large because the hickory nut that we see may be, comparably small, but it actually is inside a husk, which is usually far larger.
I see.
And that
like
husk,
an almond.
Exactly. Yeah, precisely like an almond. So in order to create a bunch of hickory nuts, they first have to create a flower. Then they have to create another flower that produces pollen. And this has to be all these other trees. Then they have to produce the fruit that comes with the pollination of that female flower.
And that flower has to live long enough to be pollinated.
Exactly. So it's got to have all the energy to go through these entire kind of reproductive setups. Then they have to add all the energy to make the lipids and the fats and the proteins and the things to go into the seed itself. And then they need to put the protective stuff on the outside, which is, it's all growing at the same time. Then it's done. But it's doing this all over the tree at once. So there's maybe several hundred pounds, thousands of pounds worth of stuff that the tree is creating over the entire year. Most of the time, it grows once in the early season, and then it just takes in energy for the rest of it. So when it is actually blooming, and when I say most of the time, I should say when it's not flowering and fruiting. So it's just doing those two things. It's just growing once a year, and then it's just taking and storing energy. And it's using some of that energy to, keep living. And then when it finally gets to a certain age, it says, okay, I have enough energy banked that now I can use that and the energy I'm going to get this year to produce these very high energy, costly reproductive parts. So for a willow, it does two things. One, like you said, it grows up really fast. It lives fast, dies young. It just wants to get out as many seeds as it can. And its seeds are also teeny tiny. And they are filled or they're covered around with these, this like fluff. Like the fluff you see that everyone thinks is from a cottonwood?
Oh, yeah.
Most of that's probably from willows, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so it comes from willows and cottonwoods. They're all in the same family.
Oh, wow. I know that also, I think you told me this, when people think they're allergic to that stuff.
Yeah.
It's at the same time that grass is pollinating, so you're
Exactly.
probably allergic to the grass pollen.
Yeah, almost 100%, because there's no pollen in that anymore. The little fluffs, the cotton.
Right.
It's a fruit with
a
little
fruit.
hairs on it.
Yeah.
There's zero pollen in it
But
in
it
every way.
looks like something you'd be allergic to.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Yeah. So in this case, the one tree, the willow, say, is growing really fast. So it's putting all of its efforts into just growing up and storing as much as it can underground. And if it falls over, if it decays, it doesn't care. It's not really focused on that. And so it is spending a very small amount on defense. It's spending a bunch of its energy on growing tall and growing fast.
Can we call that offense?
Yes. Yeah, it's called an offense.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly. So it puts all of its effort into offense, and then it's got its special teams, okay? It uses
what have I done?
It uses
What
its
does that
special
mean?
teams. It's the kicking team.
Oh, okay.
And the kicking team defenders.
On football.
On American football.
Yeah.
So they put all of their energy into the special teams, which are doing all these other special things, i.e. having sex. So yeah, it's a pretty special team.
I want to be on that team.
So they ended up putting in a bunch of energy into creating these little tiny seeds that just don't have that much, they don't take that much energy to make. So they can make a whole shit ton of them and just throw them out all over the place.
Because they're playing like a numbers game. They're just like,
precisely,
one of these is going to take, here's 8 million of them.
And most of them take.
Oh, okay.
So that's one means of reproduction. Then the other, like the hickory, is they grow a little bit slower. They have to build up more energy because they're making more fruit. They're also spending more of their energy on defense, not quite as much on offense. So their special teams has to wait until all those things kind of balance out, or rather the balance shifts so that there is more energy left over. Then it can actually start to produce the reproductive parts.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So again, genes are on one side. Some trees are just programmed to not start for a certain amount of time until they get to a certain size and age. Others will only do it once they get to that age, plus have enough built up energy. So it can be a 400-year-old tree that's growing in the worst possible place, and it will put out one fruit every 10 years because it can only save up enough energy per year to do it once every 10 years.
I have a short little question that I would like a short little answer.
All right, now we got a game starting here. We can talk all about offense and defense and special teams all day, Alex.
Coach, please, can I ask a question?
What do we got?
You know that I would end up being the water boy for the special teams that had sex.
Absolutely not, Alex.
God damn it.
Unfortunately, it turns out that the
fourth string. Casey.
Yes.
How long can a tree store energy and still use it?
This is a good question.
This is an annual thing?
No, I think for many, many years. In fact,
so it could in its pubescence or puberty, I should say.
Yes.
To not get confused. In its sexual maturation, it could use like years and years and years of built up energy.
Yeah, correct.
Whoa, okay.
So it would usually...
that process probably also takes a ton of energy.
Oh, yeah, definitely,
like turning on the genes.
Exactly. And it's stored within the wood, like the trunk, the branches, all within those cells that we call the sapwood. It's stored in there. Wherever there's living cells, they get a little bit stored inside of them, stored down in the roots. And again, it's like it's always shared as the closest place. So as I pass things along, I take my fill. So if you are a leaf and you say, hey, here's the goods, I'll say, great, thank you. I'll eat my fair share, store some, and send the rest down.
Okay.
And every cell along the chain does that. So it's stored kind of all over the place. Some trees store more underground. So energy can't
die.
No, but it can be eaten by like, a decay organism can come in and get it. Or if you like rip the bark off, then what was stored directly underneath that bark is usually no longer accessible. So those cells die.
Weird.
And they can't actually pull cells or pull stuff out from the wood, the sapwood that's right there.
Crazy.
Yeah, so you can definitely affect it. And of course, if you cut off a branch, now that branch's worth of energy producing tissue and energy storage tissue is gone. So it's not just you're losing the green leaves, you're losing everything that those green leaves stored as well.
Cool.
So there you go. So yeah, I don't think you can officially lose it, but there is, however long different trees have their sapwood. So some can be 20 years, some can be 3, something like that.
If you don't use it, you can use it. Wait, if you don't lose it, wait, hold on. If you don't use it, you can't lose it.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for your question, Ian. Really appreciate it. And like I said, if you've got a question for us and just want to support the podcast with a monthly or annual support fee and get lots of fun things in return, go to arbitrarypod.supercast.com, ARBORTRARY pod.supercast.com, and become a Treemium member. Casey, if you are a Treemium member listening to this on the day that is released or after, guess what? Hats are live.
That's right.
We have hats. They are for sale.
And don't forget, we're in Friday the 13th of Oktoberfest.
Friday the 13% off.
That's right, everyone. So if you are not a Treemium member, A, get on it. B, you can still get 13% off if you buy anything except the hats. Those are brand new, so we're not going to away for any discount. Everything else, including totes and shirts and stickers, everything is Friday the 13% off.
That's right.
Use code
Friday. Casey Clapp.
Alex Crowson, Mr. Munz.
Thank you for the lovely episode, Case.
You're welcome.
Had a fun time time traveling, smoking all those cigarettes.
Yeah, you really did. You really did. You chain smoked, man.
It's my one chance.
That was bad. That was like 13 cigarettes in a half hour.
My body feels it.
You are shaking.
And thank you so much, everybody, for listening to this episode of Completely Arbortrary. Hey, we'll see you next time. Goodbye. Completely Arbortrary is produced by Alex Crowson and Casey Clapp. Our artwork is by Jillian Barthold, and our music is by Aves and the Mini Vandals. If you want to support this podcast and become a Treemium member, head over to arbitrarypod.supercast.com. Thanks for listening.